Okay, this is Mrs. Roman, and I'm going to take you through one problem of each of the review, and then you will work on the review by yourself and come back at the end of the day to the website, and the key will be posted for you to check your answers. If you turn in this review completed at the beginning of your test, whether it's on Wednesday or Thursday, it will count as a grade for you. So, counting atoms. Count the total number of atoms in each of the following chemical formulas. I'm going to show my work to the side over here. So I have calcium, oxygen, and hydrogen. I have a coefficient of 3. For calcium, I have no subscript, so it's 3 times 1 equals 3. For oxygen, I don't have a subscript here, so I assume it's 1, but this subscript outside the parentheses applies to the whole formula. So 3 times 1 times 2 is 6. For hydrogen, same thing, 3 times my first subscript, which is 1, then the subscript outside the parentheses, which is 2. I add those together to get the total. That would be 15. Please use a calculator and check your work. That's part number 1, counting atoms. Part number 2, chemical equations. Now this is very similar to counting atoms. First thing we're going to do, list out my elements. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, oxygen. For carbon, I have a coefficient of 6 and nothing for my subscript, so times 1. For oxygen, this first oxygen, I have a coefficient of 6 again and a subscript of 2. For the second half of the formula, I have a coefficient of 6 as well, and for hydrogen, I have a subscript of 2 equals 12. For the second oxygen, I have a coefficient of 6, but no subscript, so times 1. For my product side, remember the right-hand side is the product. I have no coefficient, so 1 times 6, because I have a subscript of 6. Hydrogen, no coefficient, subscript of 12. 1 times 12. For my first oxygen, again, coefficient of 1 times the subscript of 6. Oxygen over here, I'm separated by a plus sign, so I have a new coefficient. 6 times my subscript of 2. Remember, combine like terms. Combine like terms, just like in math. So I can combine my oxygens, which gives me 12 and 6 is 18. Over here I can combine my oxygens, so 12 and 6 is 18. If I look at my problem, carbon is 6 and the product and the reactant side, carbon is 6 on the product side, so those are equal. 12 hydrogens, those are equal. 18 total oxygens, 18 total oxygens, those are equal. So when the question is my equation balanced? The answer is yes. That's part 2. Part 3, you do not have to show your work in part 3, because if you notice, they're the same exact equation. If I have a balanced equation, I have conserved mass. So is mass conserved? Well, up here I found it was balanced, so here mass is conserved. Now the opposite would be true if I had said no. If I had said no, then mass would not have been conserved. That was part 3, balanced equals mass conserved. All right. Part 5, the 5 evidences of a chemical reaction. You're just going to fill in what each acronym stands for. So city, color creation. You can fill in the rest. Look at your notes in your packet. Last one. Is it a chemical change? Yes or no? And give the evidence that we see. 1. When milk is poured into Red Bull and a white slime solid appears after letting the substance combine for a couple hours. So I see a slimy solid. That is one of my 5 chemical evidences. So yes, it is a chemical reaction, and my evidence is precipitate. So is it a chemical? Yes and no. And which evidence? If you circle no, you do not provide an evidence. That is part 5 of the review. Please finish the review and check at the end of the day for the key. Thanks, guys. See you Wednesday or Thursday.